Kingdoms, Exile, and Identity, Part 3. Prophets in the Ruins, Voices Against Collapse. Civilizations don't usually fall all at once. They crack, they rot, they forget who they are. And long before the walls come down, long before the fires in exile, there is always a voice standing outside the palace gates saying what no one in power wants to hear. That voice is the prophet. Anthropologists will tell you that every other culture carries a moral memory, a shared understanding of right and wrong, of who the people are supposed to be. When societies drift too far from that memory, something rises up to challenge them. In the biblical world, that challenge had a real name: prophet. Prophets were not fortune tellers. They were not court advisors, and they were not politicians dressed in religious language. They were outsiders. They lived on the margins. Shepherds, farmers, exiles, prisoners, widows' sons. They did not inherit power. They confronted it. And that is why they were hated. Prophets spoke truth outside the structures of power. Kings spoke of victory. Prophets spoke of consequence. Temples spoke of ritual. Prophets spoke of obedience. Empires spoke of destiny, and prophets spoke of judgment. From an anthropological lens, prophets functioned as living archives. They carried the memory of the covenant when institutions had rewritten it. They reminded people who they were before the kingdom told them who to be. This is why prophets always appear during decline. Isaiah did not rise during peace, but decay. Jeremiah did not speak during strength, but collapse. Ezekiel prophesied from exile, not triumph. They wasn't trying to stop history. They were trying to save identity. When a nation forgets its moral center, prophets become dangerous, not because they are violent, but because they are honest. They exposed corruption in leadership. They named injustice as sin. And they warned that collapse is not random, it is earned. And for that, they were beaten, imprisoned, ignored, or killed. Prophets represent a society's last immune response. When systems fail, the body speaks through pain. Exile then becomes more than punishment. It becomes revelation. In exile, the people lost land, temple, and king, but they found something else: memory, identity, scripture, and faith that no longer depended on buildings or borders. It was in ruins that Israel learned who they truly were. The prophet taught them this: you can lose a kingdom and still keep your soul. But if you lose your soul, the kingdom is already gone. This is the message that echoes across civilizations. Rome fell, Babylon fell, and Jerusalem fell. Not because of enemies alone, but because truth was silenced long before armies arrived. And now we must ask the uncomfortable question: what does prophecy look like today? It does not always wear robes, it does not always quote scripture, and sometimes it sounds like whistleblowers. Sometimes it sounds like dissidents. Sometimes it sounds like voices crying out online, in prisons, in poverty, and in exile of another kind. Prophets still stand outside power structures. They are still called unpatriotic, still labeled dangerous, and still accused of hatred when they speak truth. And just like before, society must decide: will we listen or will we collapse? Because prophets do not cause the fall, they announce it. They are not enemies of nations, they are guardians of memory. And when the ruins finally come, it is their words, not the king's degrees, that survive. So hear this, people of every age. If you want to know where a civilization is headed, don't listen to the palace. Listen to the voices in the ruins. They remember who we were and who we are meant to be.